What is going on, everybody? Welcome back, and in today's video I'm gonna take you with me to shoot a rock show. Alright guys, in this video we're gonna go over what it's like to show up to a national show as a local photographer. So one of the things I get asked all the time is, how do you get into a show? One like Silverstein. So there's a few ways of doing it. To start, asking the band on Instagram or through any other social media or email protocol. That is one way to do it. Find a band that you like, reach out to them, and ask them if it's okay if you photograph a show. One thing to note, the faster you can get the photos turned around, the more likely they are to say, yes, feel free to come on out, shoot our show. Here's a media pass, here's a ticket. And usually you'll get a ticket with a media pass, but it's not always the case. However, if you reach out to the band and they don't respond to you, there are sometimes email protocols to go through in order to get an acceptance. Now, with that being said, we're gonna pack up, we're gonna grab my gear, and we're gonna go.
It's okay it's not the greatest for video.
That's all right.
I tried it and I was like, yeah, I can't see shit.
I see. You're all geared
It's
up.
for YouTube. Is it actually recording?
Yeah.
Is it blinking red?
Yeah, it is.
Oh shit.
So when I do photograph a show at a somewhat larger venue for this type of music, that would be Worcester Palladium, House of Blues, Roadrunner, areas in the Boston, Massachusetts area, I usually bring 2 cameras. And the reason being, I find myself going into the pit or the crowd or wherever with my cameras. And if by chance one of them breaks, I do have a second camera as a backup to be able to continue photographing throughout the night. So with that being said, my cameras are the Z6 Mark III and the Z5 Mark II. Both have great low light autofocus from my experience, but also have awesome colors and amazing high ISO performance. That is a huge thing for me, is having that kind of performance in a camera, is being able to know and rely on it so that this way I don't have to spend too much time with settings, but instead I just aim, point, and shoot. I do film video as well as photos, so both of these cameras are capable of doing the highest quality video available in a mirrorless camera, being 12-bit raw internal recording. The Z6 Mark III, however, does have a higher bit rate, and I have noticed that some of the recordings on those are much larger than the Z5 Mark II. The Z5 Mark II does record the raw 12-bit, but it records it, I believe, in a little less of quality and sends it to a UHS-2 card versus the CF Express card. So with that being said, now that I've got my gear packed up, the one thing I leave home is a flash. I will not bring a flash to an event like this. Most of the time they don't let you anyway, but we're gonna leave the flash at home. Recently, I have an absolute favorite lens, and I'm gonna talk about that in an upcoming video. So I am gonna pack that lens, my absolute favorite lens. Then my 20mm wide lens. It's a 20mm 1.8 lens. I'll have this lens. I'll have my 70 to 180, and then the lenses that I'm using currently, my 50mm and my 35mm 1.4 lenses from Nikon Z, which are the native Z mount lenses. The 35 is a great lens, but it's kind of a hit or miss. And my 50 is probably my all-time favorite. If I had to leave any of these home, I'm probably going to leave my 35mm home, just because between the 20 and the 50, I really don't need an in-between. My 50 is good for just getting, the average field of view shots, and I'll use my 20 if I need something super wide. And then my 70 to 180, is just in case I do need to zoom in really, really close, or if I need to get to the drums, if I have to get, close-up shots of the singer or any kind of instrument shots, I have the ability to do so with the extra reach. And it is a 2.8 lens, so it gives me a lot of light to let in. Now, the reason I don't have the 70 to 200 is because of cost. Budget-wise, this made much more sense versus the 70 to 200. Also, if this breaks, it's cheaper to replace versus a 70 to 200 at almost 3 times the cost. Now that I've had all my gear stuffed into my backpack, I'm heading to the show. I do my check-in. I get in there. They go through all my stuff. I'm going to head right down to the pit.
What's up, dude?
How are you?
I am fucking living. How you doing?
That
was you.
Me and Max.
Once I get to the pit, I'll meet up with some of the other local photographers, some of that I'm friends with, and some that I may be meeting for the first time that night, who will in turn end up being friends. That's usually kind of how it goes. Once I meet up with everybody, I can say hi, I can introduce myself. I find a way to make everything inclusive. Like, you know, you're going to be in a pit with other people running around. Try to be friendly with them. Don't be rude. You know, you don't own the place. They also have the ability to get there and get certain spots and move around. Let them. You know, if someone's walking by you, don't jump in front. That's not something I would do. If someone's trying to reach over you, grab your shot, move away, get out of the way. Being nice and introducing yourself and being friendly just means that everyone together in such a small space isn't going to get aggravated with one another. So introductions are absolutely important. Once the introductions are made, I might go ahead and put my stuff down, kind of get my cameras all situated, get my exposure set up, or what might need my exposure. Kind of look at where the different placements are for each of the instruments when it comes to where the drums are for each band, where they're going to enter from. Look behind you, look at the crowd. See who might be the type of person that's going to start crowd surfing. Maybe predict where it might come from. It is kind of unpredictable, but sometimes you can base it on an idea. Know where the pit's going to be. Find your security guards. See where your security guards are going to be. That's the biggest starting point, is the prep. Knowing where you are and what's around you is absolutely important. And at 100%, do not trip over the barricades. Look where you're going. Don't trip, because if you trip and you fall and security guards pulling a crowd surfer over, you might get somebody that gets dropped on you. So just don't do that. Don't do that. Pay attention to where you're going. After I have all my stuff together, the first thing we can do is we shoot the first 3 songs. From those 3 songs, I'm gonna use my favorite lens, and I'm gonna use most likely my 50mm lens. I'm gonna bounce between the 2 of those throughout the pit, and that's about it for the most part. There's not really much that I need to get, unless, of course, depending on the venue. Once I've kind of seen the area, then it makes it easier for me to figure out what lenses I'm going to use while I'm in the pit, giving me a quicker way of either switching lenses and not missing a shot, or just knowing what I have on me. And if I'm using the 2 cameras at once, then I can just put one lens on one lens on the other camera, put my harness on, and fire away and not have to worry about switching my lenses. Once the 3 songs are over, it is time for us to leave. So now at this point, most places I go to, they're going to allow me to shoot front of house. So now I'll be able to walk around and go to different areas, and I'll be able to use other lenses. So this is where I might use the 70 to 180. The one thing I love about using a zoom lens, even in a slightly smaller location, is how much compression you can get, especially considering I'm not the tallest person in the world. It allows me to be able to get eye level with everybody in that crowd, giving me this dynamic look where I'm pulling the artist and the stage closer to me while compressing all the people in the pit. So if somebody is crowd surfing, I'm not using a wide angle lens and then being a small person. I can fill the frame while still being able to see the artist as that person's crowd surfing. If a pit is happening and I'm up in the VIP area, I can zoom in on that pit so that I can get more of that kind of rough look, that, you know, someone falling or something happening in a sense that might lead to something that looks awesome when you look at it. After the first band's done, everyone relaxes, we get back down there, and we do it all over again. Now in the case of Silverstein, as Silverstein gets onto the stage, they are absolutely one crazy band. Luckily, I was actually able to go a little bit longer than the first 2 songs. Shots I've ever seen in my entire life, even from my own camera. A lot of them were kind of on the darker side, with an emphasis in the lights off of the stage while still being able to see everyone, everybody. One thing to note is during Silverstein's set, getting the people screaming up front, singing the songs, the emotions that people have. A lot of times bands like this will lead to crowds where they're actually crying, or They have a lot of emotion going on. They're singing their heart out. You can see their faces, their reactions. That is probably one of the greatest things a band can see when taking photos. Seeing the reactions of the crowd to their music, because their music is there specifically to draw emotion. When a band creates a song, they create songs for emotion. And if you can see emotion in that crowd, do it. Get every shot you can. Do not be afraid to take photos of the crowd, especially considering sometimes those people might find you on Instagram. They might message you. They might say, hey, do you have that photo of me? Hey, you're the person that took the photo of me, right? You might find that. It happens to me from time to time. So by all means, get photos of people crowd surfing. Get people at the Barricade screaming and yelling their hearts out to the songs that they're singing. It's so awesome. Anyway, moving on. Once the first 3 songs are done with Silverstein, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to find some dynamic spots to photograph when it comes to the favorite lens of mine. There's going to be some areas I'm going to want to compose to get this dynamic shot that stands out. Something that really says, wow, where I have some curved lines, I have some leading lines, if you will, some dynamic look to the balcony, the stage, the venue, the people, all of it. Something that looks different than what we're used to seeing on a day-to-day basis. That is the whole purpose of concert photography. Everyone's there and everybody sees the same thing, but the way you take a photo to make it feel different, that's what we go for. That is what my favorite lens does, by the way. When I tell you, it makes things look different. When I tell you it makes things look different, it makes things look different. That's for certain. Once that is all said and done, I've taken the photos, I'm going to enjoy a couple of songs. Sometimes I'm going to relax. One of the things I like to do is do like a burst photo too. So as like lights are going up and down and moving around, if I can't really see anybody, but I can see the lights, I'll do a burst. So I'll take a whole bunch of photos in one shot, just standing still. And then I can stabilize them or get them set up and then send them into DaVinci and create a video out of it, like a reel of sorts. And this way you can see the lights going up and down. Instead of it being an actual video, it just kind of has a different look when you do it in photo because you have more information you have to play with. You have more color you can work with. You have more dynamic range to work with when you're doing it in photo. So you get a little bit more out of it when you do like the burst photos. Plus you get that skippiness that happens to it. So it kind of reminds me of like an old 8mm film camera. Those are some of the ideas that go through my head when photographing a show. How can I emphasize the lighting that's happening? Because one of the biggest things when it comes to a rock show is the lighting. How much emphasis on the lighting? What kind of contrast? What kind of feeling can I get through contrast when it comes to photographing a show? What is some of the things that stand out about that band that make that band who they are? How do they scream? How do they sing? What instruments do they use? By being able to take those elements and put them together to create a story in photos, that is what goes through my head when photographing a show, whether locally, whether nationally, whether it's a big show or even a small punk rock show in the basement of a church. How can I make it stand out and not seem like it's something that me and everyone else there is seeing? Ask yourself that question when you're showing up. Or if you're on your first show, if you're watching this video because you're about to shoot your very first rock show, think of those things. What can you do to make things stand out more? Not just take a picture of the singer's face, but what else can you include in that photo? What angle can you shoot from to make that person seem powerful, sad, emotional? What are ways you can angle a camera to do so? Drop a comment down below if you guys want to know my idea as to what angle creates what emotion. Maybe I'll make a video on that. However, if you guys like this video, feel free, hit that like button, drop a comment down below. Let me know if you shot concerts before. Is concert something you're trying to get into? If you have any questions on this video or questions on the gear that I use. All right, guys, that's gonna wrap up this video. Feel free to hit that like button, drop a comment down below, let me know your favorite band or if there's a band that you'd want to take a photo of. And until then, keep rocking. I'll see you in the next video.